right, welcome into the Five Guys here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and the Five Reasons Sports. I got Alex Donno. You can follow him at Alex Donno. He's got that Kane stuff there in the background. Seems like that and the Panthers are the two teams to talk about these days, but we're going to talk Dolphins anyway because, why not? Season's not completely over, even though the 80% off ticket prices would suggest that it is. We are sponsored here today by our friends over at Prize Picks. Use the code 5, FIVE. Put down $5, they'll give you $50 to play right away. That's how easy it is to get involved at Prize Picks. Again, to go to prizepicks.com. They have a special tonight where basically you can get your money back and a free lineup if you play the quarterback. So I was looking at the quarterbacks today. Dak Prescott over 259.5 passing yards for Dallas. I would likely go over that against the Giants. And then Daniel Jones, 201.5 against Dallas. I would likely go under that. But anyway, play it the way that you want to play it. Use the code 5. Again, download Prize Picks, the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store, or prizepicks.com. But make sure that you use that code. Speaking of quarterbacks, Alex, man, I feel like we did some episodes on this before the season started that they had left themselves woefully unprepared in case Tua went out for 4, 5, 6 weeks. I actually had Ricky Williams on yesterday talking about that 2002 season, what happened when Jay Fiedler went out. Looks like the same thing's happening here. They had to know that if Tua had any kind of concussion, that they were going to have to be extra careful because of his history, but also because of the way the league seems to scrutinize and the public and the media seems to scrutinize him above everybody else that has a concussion. And so it was predictable he wasn't going to play all 17 games. And they protected themselves with a 7th-round pick in Skylar Thompson, who hasn't shown a whole lot in his first couple of seasons and nothing else. And then they end up having to play a guy in Boyle who's never even come close to winning an NFL game. And now it appears that they're leaning towards Tyler Huntley. This was supposed to be the soft part of the schedule. Tennessee at home, the Patriots, the Colts, winnable games. How did they get a win on Monday night?
You've got to hope that Will Levis and the Titans are as bad as they seem to be to start the year. I mean, honestly, Ethan, if you like, no matter who your quarterback is, and I'm with you, I would like to see Tyler Huntley because you feel like, and of course, Skylar Thompson, I don't know how healthy he is right now. You don't rule him out completely. If you start Tim Boyle, you might as well forfeit the rest of the season, in my opinion. I would like to see Huntley get the opportunity. And yeah, for as messy as the Dolphins quarterback situation is, if you can't beat Tennessee, I don't know who you're going to beat the rest of the year, at least not until Tua comes back, which is at least, 3 more weeks away at the very least. The Dolphins are actually favored in this game, despite the fact that, they might be pulling somebody out of the stands to play quarterback. Mm-hmm. So if you can't win this game, what game can you win? So honestly, simply by showing up and, giving your quarterback some semblance of protection, because that's the other thing. No matter who the quarterback is, you got to make sure that they don't get killed out there, right? That if Skylar does play, you got to protect his ribs at least a little bit out there. But if you show up and you don't commit 5 turnovers, you should be able to win this game, although we all remember what happened against Tennessee last year. So, nothing is guaranteed in this league. But you should this in New England are teams you should be able to beat, even if your quarterback situation is in peril.
You should, but they lost to this team at home last year, and that pretty much sunk the season. If they had finished in the last 4 minutes of that game, then things would have looked very different. They would have been going to Kansas
and by the
City.
way, how is it? I don't know how NFL scheduling works, but how is it that Tennessee comes here 2 years in a row?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, did they line up the same in terms of divisions, in terms of where they finish in their particular division? Sometimes they do it that way. But either way, I mean, if they win that game last year, they would have set themselves up to win the division. They would have been hosting a home playoff game, which is what we talked about this year. And they blew it against Will Levis and that crew last season. And they don't even have Tua quarterback now. I guess my thing on this, and you mentioned protecting Tua, or protecting the quarterback, whoever it is, this week, which is a big part of this. But also, look, the defense has played well, not giving up points in the second half, but they haven't made game-turning plays. I think the only way that they're going to survive this stretch is if they can create some turnovers. They're going to have to give. And look, they gave I mean, what the Dolphins got a field goal out of a drive that started at the opposing 6 on Sunday. That they're going to, they're gonna they're gonna have to create more of those to give themselves an opportunity because I don't see any other way. I just look, Huntley to me is the best of the options right now. You throw him out there, he can't be worse than Skylar, and I do think that we're at the stage now where I'm doing something I did not want to do, which is I'm starting to question whether Mike McDaniel is too loyal to particular players in his own building. We've seen this problem before, and it almost seems like he's too nice to cut bait. I mean, I don't know what he's seen from Skylar Thompson over the past couple of years, and I mentioned this. We talked about the backup quarterback situation before the season. My big issue with Skylar Thompson is what is Tua's greatest strength? It's processing speed, right? You don't necessarily have to find the lefty, okay? But if your backup's weakness is processing speed, and you're putting him in the same offense with the same personnel as the starter, you are not going to get results. I mean, you have to find somebody who at least has strengths that may not match Tua's, but they're in the same ballpark. Skylar Thompson's strength seems to be getting the hell out of the pocket. Okay, but can he make plays? Can he make good decisions once he's out there? Is he accurate when he's out there? Does he, again, there is the processing speed quick enough? And none of that seems to be the case. And so I don't really understand. Like, Mike White has capably led an NFL team with the Jets. Okay, like, I know White wasn't good in camp, but to come out of it with Skylar Thompson and then Boyle comes out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and they could have had Ty Huntley before. They could have gone after him in training camp. They didn't protect themselves, and now the word is they're not going to go after Russell Wilson or one of these other guys. I don't know if Chris Greer thinks he has an endless clock, like literally, like there's nothing that can be done to actually remove him. But I would be feeling the pressure right now, like this is my last year, this is my last chance, because we just extended a bunch of guys, put ourselves even deeper into cap trouble to try to win this year. Like, you have to salvage this situation. This team has to make the playoffs this year, Alex.
Yeah, especially, when you only have, a finite number of years with Tyreek Hill. Like he's not going to play forever. And I think this is, and you think about what they had to give up a couple of years ago just to get him on the roster, what they had to give up to get Bradley Chubb on the roster. I know he's recovering, but when you go out there and you make deals, when you're in win now mode, you can't have one foot in and one foot out of the pool. Like you need to either dive completely into that and make sure you're covered from a quarterback situation, which they clearly weren't, knowing you had a guy who does have an injury prone history, or you need to be completely out of the pool and thinking about 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. And they seem to be dabbling a little bit in both of those worlds, which is not good. And yeah, I mean, to go back, I can't speak for you, but I usually am not the greatest predictor of future events. But all the conversations that you and I had before the season started about what are you doing at backup quarterback here, banking on Skylar Thompson or Mike White? And, I'm sure, some people would come out and say, well, you know what, if you lose Tua, the season's over anyway, so what's the difference? Well, no, because if you're thinking losing him for a full season, like you're losing him probably for 4 games, and if you can't at least salvage a 500 record during that period, then that's going to be the reason why your season is over. You need to have a capable backup when you're talking about a team that theoretically has the talent to be a playoff team. You were the last 2 years.
You know what's never good, Alex, as we're going to go to our friends over at Jersey's 305, when schleps like you and me can identify the problems before the season, and they're acting like they're smarter than everybody else, and typically they are. Like, they know more than us. They know more inside the building. I've learned that lesson over and over and over. They know about a player's strength. They see them every day. They see them in the training room. They see them work with different groups. They see them in the meeting rooms. And there's no way you and I can have the depth of understanding about particular players on their roster and their potential the way that they do. No way. So it's kind of scary when we look at it and we're saying, okay, what were the problems before the season? They didn't fortify themselves at backup quarterback. Kind of worried about the kicker. Kind of worried about the overall physicality of the team, and particularly the offensive line. Like, we said this before the year. Like, none of this is a mystery. You don't need to be any great genius to look at it. Like, it's like It's like the Heat starting Haywood Highsmith to the 4 and saying they're small. You know what I mean? They're small. And, the Heat, no, we're not small. Like just, don't piss on our legs and tell us it's raining. Like, and I feel like that's kind of what this was. Like, what was the Skylar Thompson breakout expected to be? He was a 7th-round pick. And just because Brock Purdy was a 7th-round pick, maybe you should have taken a flyer on him instead. That is rare. Like, there are reasons that players are evaluated down. And the single biggest thing, it would seem to me that you need to run Mike McDaniel's offense is be able to process quickly. And I don't understand why he's picked someone who looks like he's literally like his head's dancing with a million thoughts before he makes a decision. It's
can't.
Hard
to watch.
Yeah. It was bad. You know what's not bad though? The jerseys you can find at Jerseys 305. So check them out, jerseys305.com or on Instagram. A little bit more about them here. I can tell you their Panther stock is ridiculous, and that team starts next week, and they're looking pretty good in camp. I mean, everybody looks good in camp, but when you're the Stanley Cup champions, you can say that you look good in camp. Anyway, Jerseys 305.
Hey, it's Ethan Skolnick for the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We've got a great new sponsor that fits with us perfectly. It's called jerseys305.com. That's jerseys305.com. This is your home for dead stock and vintage jerseys from the Heat, Panthers, Dolphins, Marlins, and the other local teams. Their mission was born from a passion for wearing jerseys of the old styles and the past players. Jerseys 305 aims to make every fan stand out from the crowd with unique pieces that you don't commonly see anymore. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, but not today. And Jerseys 305 was created by the fans, for the fans. They're diehards just like you. In fact, they're probably listening to this episode right now. So check them out, Jerseys 305, their partnership with 5 Reasons Sports, celebrating with a 10% discount on the next purchase using the code 5 at checkout. Unlock your exclusive savings on the entire vintage collection.
Is there somebody on the defense that you feel at this point just needs to break out to such a degree that this team can overcome what are clear warts on the offense? I can't believe we're saying this. This was a team that scored 7 in the game last year, but I mean, they can't. I mean, they've scored like 1 touchdown in like 17 drives or something along those lines. Like, is there somebody on the defense? Jalen Ramsey, I guess, is playing better than it looks according to the metrics. Jalen Phillips, I don't know how much you can expect from a guy coming back from that kind of injury, but who is going to take control of this thing? Because you're right, this team they're playing is not very good. But right now, with their quarterback situation, they're not very good either.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say Jalen Phillips. It probably should be one of the Jalens, right? But if Jalen Phillips can start producing some of the multiple sack games that he was getting before his injury last year, where he was single-handedly taking over some games. I mean, the guy was absolutely ridiculous. So if he can get back to like full health, full speed, full form, I'm a big believer in pass rush. I know it's why the Dolphins have for so many years drafted guys at that position, or at least tried to. A lot of the guys that they've drafted that position, the Charles Harrises and the Deion Jordans, for example, didn't exactly pan out, but you found a guy who did pan out. And if he can start really taking over games, terrorizing quarterbacks, I think that's definitely one for me. I put him right up there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I actually think some of their new additions have played pretty well. I mean, first thing, Calais Campbell has been terrific at age 38. They've done some good things on the fringes, but this whole house of cards was going to collapse if Tua went out. We all knew it. They had to know it, and it just doesn't seem like they put the best. I mean, look, their third receiver in each game has not caught more than 1 pass. Their third receiver. I mean, Braxton Berrios does not have a catch this year, correct? Like, this is another guy they kept on the roster. They don't have any. They just don't have any healthy receivers. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. is hurt. Tell me about it. I mean, this is not a surprise. Like, it's just. Here's the thing about them. I'm tired of people like us being right. I'm tired of it because we should not be. If it's, I keep saying this, if it's this obvious to us that when you have a quarterback, and I said this, I don't know if I got into this with you, so I'm curious your thoughts on it. If you were willing to pay Tua that kind of money, you should be willing to get a quarterback who people will throw in a controversy with him, who's good enough.
I agree.
In other words, right?
But it's kind of scary how I see a lot of Dolphin fans looking at it the opposite way, which is weird because I've seen so many comments, because, over the last couple of years, the Dolphins seem to be in the backup quarterback market just about every year. Not really
Mhm.
this past year, but every time the Dolphins are in the backup quarterback market, I see comments like, well, you want somebody who's not going to create any quarterback controversy and not challenge Tua. But the way that I look at it, first of all, if we love Tua so much, and listen, I'm a Tua believer when he's healthy. Like, if we love Tua this much, why are we worried about some backup, taking, like, you shouldn't be worried about that. And number two, don't you want to have the best possible backup quarterback? It's like, man, if I don't understand the way that some people think this way. And I'll tell you how it's getting bad for the Dolphins when I start to see, because there's always been a few people who spew this negative rhetoric, but those are just usually the most negative people. But I start to see people who are usually pretty positive starting to turn on Mike McDaniel a little bit.
Yeah.
And if they're starting to turn on Mike McDaniel, and again, like, there's always some people who will just despise every coach, right? But you see the people who are usually positive starting to turn on Mike McDaniel. That's when that things are getting bad, and maybe they should be turning on Greer before they turn on McDaniel, because how many head coaches is he going to get to hire?
I'm with you on that part. McDaniel's an easy target in the sense that he's different. So everything that people
Yeah.
love about him, when things aren't going well, they're going to start pointing to he talks too much at press conferences. He really doesn't say anything. He's not a leader of men. I'm starting to hear all those things that were concerns about him before he took the job, and then everybody kind of loved him. Let's not go back to Brian Flores. I don't want to hear that stuff. Okay, that he was not the answer either. This one's Brian says season is screwed if we don't actually start a quarterback. I look. I think they have to start Huntley this week and see what they have.
Yeah.
And it's tough for him to get up to speed. And this offense is going to be different. It's a very short period of time. It cannot be worse than what we just saw.
Nope.
And if you're starting Boyle, what the hell are you doing? Okay, I mean, again, the guy's proven over and over he can't win at this. I don't care that he took charge of the huddle in that situation in Seattle. Great, okay. No, this is a team that had Super Bowl aspirations, like AFC Championship aspirations, AFC East title aspirations. Like, you're not starting Boyle and you can't. To me, you give Huntley a week, and then I think Scuba Steve hits on it. You give Huntley a week, and then you try to salvage the season, and you send a draft pick to get somebody like Russell Wilson. You will be able to get somebody's backup, particularly if there are three quarterbacks on that roster. Pittsburgh
Yeah.
has two backups to Fields at this point, and it's apparently they don't get along all that well from what's been talked about. There's no reason for Russ to be there at this stage. By the way, I called the Steelers over. I told everybody to pound the Steelers over. Every time you think the Steelers are done, Tomlin finds a way to get 9 wins. But I just, to me, that would be the guy I go after because he does some things similarly to Tua from a processing
Yes.
standpoint. He's
And he's so like, he's seen everything, and it's like, and I'm not like, I'm for the past several years, there was obviously a time when I thought Russ was legitimately one of the best, although that
Right.
defense and that running game that he had in his prime, really helped him. But
Yeah.
but like in recent years, I haven't been a guy like, yes, Russ, franchise quarterback. However, when it comes to looking for an emergency starter / backup quarterback, it's hard to do better than a guy who has seen and done everything there is to do in this league.
I mean, to me, that's worth a 5th or 6th round pick. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to salvage a season, unless you just think you got 55 lives and they're going to give you 55 more, that's the thing. But this is the excuse, and we'll close here. And again, we appreciate our sponsors. Prize Picks. Use the code 5FIV. We always tell you about Better Edge. Use the code 5RSN. You break, wheel fix. Water cleanup of Florida. You may need them in the next couple of days. WCUFL.com. What's going on outside? But I keep coming back to this. The quarterback getting hurt this year cannot be used as an excuse by this general manager or anybody. It can't be because it was predictable. It was predictable. He wasn't going to play all 17 games again. You had to fortify yourself at the position. I understand he got hurt, not necessarily the result of the offensive line. He was trying to make a play he shouldn't have been trying to make. But we talked about this We're not the smartest of the five guys. We talked about this in 2 different episodes. The biggest problem, biggest concern about this team was their backup quarterback situation and what would happen if Tua missed 4 to 6 weeks. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And they got to figure out a way to get out of this at 500. So if Huntley can't get the job done on Monday night against this sorry team, trade for Russell Wilson and see what you got there. To me, there's no choice. Otherwise, you've just given up the season. And I'm seeing ticket prices are down 80%. There's a reason for that because they don't believe that the Dolphins are actually legitimately trying to compete this year if this is what they're going to trot out there. They just don't believe it. So anyway, it's a discerning audience.
And it goes to show you, and listen, like something you have when it comes to ticket buyers in South Florida, it's a very discerning audience. They will absolutely spend their money on entertainment if you're giving them an entertaining product, right? It's why concerts do so well down here because you know what you're going to get, right? When the Dolphins are good, let's use the Heat as a better example because they're good a lot more than most. When the Heat are good, when the Panthers, you see the difference in Panthers attendance the last couple of years. Like they're going to pay to support a good product, but as soon as it looks like you're not trying anymore, people aren't just going to buy tickets for the hell of it, right? This is not Milwaukee. This is Miami, right? People are not going to they're going to find something else to spend their money on.
Alex, and to this point, I've never heard this, and I've been covering sports in this market since '96, 3 years after the Panthers come in. I have heard friends of mine who said, I don't want to spend the money on the Dolphins tickets. I'm saving it for Panthers tickets. I have never heard that before. I've never, and I get it. Because you know what you're going to get with that franchise now. You know, I mean, look, they may not be the number 1 seed coming out of the regular season, but you know what you're getting from them. You know the kind of product that Bill Zito's putting out there, and look, with the Heat, I know there's a little bit of and again, I'm going to training camp. Our numbers are down a little bit. There's people skeptical, but if some young players start to pop in camp, and we'll start to talk about them next week when I'm down in the Bahamas, but. They are, they're going to go. I mean, it's going to start with the Wade. They did smart to do the Wade statue early in the season. They'll build some momentum for that, the new scoreboard and all that stuff. What do you need to sit at a Dolphins game for and watch them try to win a game 12-9? I mean, that's not interesting to anybody. So Huntley this week, let's see what he has. And then if not, you go trade for somebody, whether it's Russ, you bring in Tannehill, whatever, just go get somebody who can play competent NFL quarterback, or else just tell us you're not trying. Anyway, thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. Jersey305.com, ubreakwheelfix.com, prizefix.com. Use the code 5. Have a good one.